Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this absolute mad lad just went ahead and rated pretty much every Marvel movie that ever released. What's up guys, it's Tex here, and recently I asked you guys to share with me some of your unpopular comic book movie opinions. I've done this before, and just like last time, I'm looking for the more unique and interesting takes, and I'm trying not to share any that we already covered previously. Without further ado, let's get into it. Movies like V for Vendetta, Watchmen, A History of Violence, and Sin City are the best comic book adaptations ever, but are hardly recognized because they are not your usual superhero movie. I think Sin City is the absolute best comic book adaptation, considering Frank Miller himself not only wrote the screenplay, but he also directed it. So yeah, by having a guy work on the adaptation of the source material who also create the source material is a good way for the movie to come out pretty accurate. V for Vendetta is also a pretty accurate adaptation, but you could argue that Watchmen is not that good of an adaptation. I think it's probably one of the best comic book movies, but as an adaptation, it changes a lot of things, and at that point, it really just depends on your preference of which one you like more. Hulk Versus is a better Thor and Hulk movie than Ragnarok ever was. All the Hulk Versus movies are pretty badass, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of Thor Ragnarok. I was pretty disappointed with it. I mean, the movie works and it has its moments that I enjoy, but overall, it's not what I expected or really what I wanted, and I don't like the direction they took the characters. But yeah, Hulk vs. Thor, I definitely watched that over Ragnarok.
Damn!
BVS Ultimate Edition and Man of Steel, from my opinion, better than the whole MCU. Didn't I say that a while ago too?
You think that both Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman is better than most of the MCU movies?
I do. I'm tired of people pretending they're not.
Well, that's not very funny.
Shut up, cracker.
Oh, wow! I agree.
Tom Holland is the worst live-action Spider-Man. What are you talking about? Look at my boy. Look at him. I actually think Tom Holland is a pretty good Peter Parker in Spider-Man. I just wish that his movies were better. I really liked Homecoming. I liked him in Civil War, but I really didn't like Far From Home. I don't like the fact that they're now changing his mentor from Tony Stark to now Doctor Strange. I want to see Spider-Man go on his own adventures, not have to rely on somebody else. I just want a good, fun, cool Spider-Man story. They got a good actor. I think he can pull it off. He just needs a better movie. Very unpopular opinion. I like the Watchmen movie more than the comics. They're gonna drag you for this. Yeah, there are a lot of things that I like in the movie more than the comic. Just like many other adaptations of popular comic books, it can go either way. I've seen people watch the movie first and they read the comic and they either end up liking the comic or just not liking it. The main thing people like about the movie more is that it's easier to follow. The comic is pretty dense and it jumps around a lot. But yeah, honestly, this isn't too uncommon for me. I've seen people just like the movie way more than the comic. Thor is a masterpiece. We just don't know it yet. My man MCM Movie Reviews. Check him out if you want. I actually do enjoy the first Thor movie. I enjoyed it a lot more when I first saw it 9 years ago because I thought it was a great introduction to the character. And he starts off as a cocky, arrogant warrior, but then he gets humbled and learns humility. I thought it was a pretty solid character arc, and I was really looking forward to where he was gonna go with his future movies. But we all saw how that went. The Amazing Spider-Man was not that bad. It did not get a chance because people were stuck on the Raimi movies. There are definitely things I like about The Amazing Spider-Man. I think the action is pretty good. I think Andrew Garfield could make a great Spider-Man. But I think people's biggest issue with The Amazing Spider-Man was the pacing and the drastic change in tone from what you expect from a Spider-Man movie. And Sony was working on a Spider-Man 4 before canceling it to make The Amazing Spider-Man instead. So some people were just kind of bitter. So right off the bat, a lot of people went in not wanting to like the movie anyway. I don't think it's terrible, but it definitely had potential. X-Men films are better than the Avengers/MCU movies. I don't really know about this one. The X-Men films are really hit and miss, and they are just inconsistent with quality. I think there are more decent to okay MCU movies than there are bad ones, but the X-Men movies do have Logan, and that's pretty fucking good. Leave a comment, let me know, what's better, all the X-Men movies or the MCU movies? I don't find MCU Thanos that intimidating. He's not intimidating. He's thick. It's really just a matter of opinion, but I enjoyed him much more than Infinity War than I did in the actual comic. I thought his motive was much better, and overall was just a very interesting character. And he was just an awesome presence on screen in every scene he was in. But yeah, whether or not you find him intimidating is just completely up to you. I thought he was intimidating because he had a nice calm demeanor, but he was very strong. And overall, just a pretty interesting character. I thought they ruined him in Endgame, but I enjoyed him a lot in Infinity War. The Dark Knight is not that great. Too many plot holes, a bit slow, and even though Ledger's acting is great, his Joker plans and trails are more fitting to other characters like the Riddler, maybe even the Mad Hatter. I think the movie overall was really great, and even though it's slow in some scenes, I thought it always remained interesting. There are a lot of plot conveniences, but I wouldn't really say plot holes. I think most of his plans really fit the character of the Joker pretty well, because in The Dark Knight, he's portrayed more as an anarchist and really just wants to cause complete chaos. Where the Riddler, he more so wants to outsmart Batman, put him in situations where he gives him the clues and wants to see if Batman can figure it out. But the Joker looks like he's having a lot of fun in the carnage and mayhem. Megamind and Shrek 2 are the greatest animated films of all time.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
100 out of 100.
Let's just go ahead and add Shark Tale to that list. Why not?
Oh, that's hot.
Doctor Strange is the best MCU movie of all time. Outside of some really cool visuals, I think Doctor Strange is the most mid MCU movie. It's a pretty safe, straightforward origin story. 1994 Fantastic Four was mankind's biggest mistake. That's incorrect, because you know what else was made in 1994? Me, and I'm mankind's biggest mistake. I don't have any hype for what's coming in MCU's Phase 4. I don't blame you, honestly. I'm not looking forward to it at all either. Phase 3 really wasn't that impressive either. Homecoming and Infinity War were the best ones from that phase. Logan is better than any MCU movie. Now that's an interesting take. It's definitely better than the vast majority of them. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. Is Logan better than all the MCU movies? That Aquaman was a bad movie. I actually overall really enjoyed it. The only thing holding it back from being great, I think, are just some of the lines of dialogue. There's a lot of really weird jokes and comedy sprinkled in throughout the whole thing. I just don't think they fit. I'm a really big fan of James Wan. I love that he brought his own style to this movie. Really great action set pieces, really great visuals. Wouldn't say it's a bad movie. I think it's a good movie that could have been great if it had better writing and just dropped all the jokes. But as it stands, I really enjoy it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is overrated. Yes, the animation style is great, and Peter B. Parker is funny, but that's it. I couldn't connect with Miles Morales, the villain Kingpin wasn't developed enough, and the final battle was short. Personally, to me, it's not overrated. It actually exceeded my expectations. I think the main charm of this movie was actually seeing all the different Spider-Men interact with each other. I thought Miles Morales was a pretty awesome character. I thought he was well developed and went through a pretty good arc. And Kingpin was pretty underdeveloped, but I think the rest of the movie counterbalances that. And yes, the animation and art style was great. So I really enjoyed the movie, and I don't think it's overrated. I think now, comic book movies don't really adapt it from comic books anymore. They now look like they just make their own thing or take on it. Of course, though, there are some references or scenes that do, but not like a full comic book adaptation. For the most part, comic book movies have always done this, like the Tim Burton Batman movies or the Nolan Batman movies. But this has become more common in recent years, especially in the MCU, but they'll pull from different sources to make their own story. And honestly, I'm pretty much okay with that. As long as it works for the movie, then I think it's fine. But yeah, it's getting even more and more less common to see a movie actually try to adapt a full comic book like V for Vendetta or Watchmen. And also with comic books, there are so many different versions of the same character that when you're making a film, it makes you want to just like pick and choose the parts of certain characters you like, and then you just kind of make your own out of that. Birds of Prey is heavily underrated. I think the movie was definitely overhated when it was released, but I think most of that was due to comments from the director. I think the movie overall was just okay. The highlights were definitely the action sequences. Really fun, over-the-top choreography. It was definitely fun to watch, but I feel like a lot of the characters were just underdeveloped, and Black Mass was just so stupidly cartoony and started to ramp up even more towards the end. But I definitely don't think it's underrated. I think it's decent at best. The new X-Men movie should have been better and helmed with a different director other than Bryan Singer, now that I realized. Yeah, Bryan Singer is pretty inconsistent. He makes some really good movies or just some absolute bombs. But yes, the X-Men movies in general should have been like much better than they were. Like I said earlier, they're just really inconsistent. Kevin Conroy's Batman is subpar at best. The Tim Burton Batman movies were ugly as hell, and Batman and Robin would have been considered amazing if it were an MCU movie. I disagree. I think Kevin Conroy has like the best Batman voice, and also based on all the animated movies and animated series and the video games that he's done, he's definitely most involved with the Batman character. In the Burton movies, I think the first one is good aesthetically. It's really gothic and like the city itself is dirty, so I really enjoy the look and feel of the first one. Batman Returns is much of the same, but it's Tim Burton, so it gets pretty weird. I don't think there's a universe in the world where Batman and Robin is considered good, even if it was an MCU movie and it had the Disney machine behind it. At least that's what I hope. Looking at some of these Rotten Tomato scores, you might be onto something. Green Lantern is better than Studio Squad and Justice League. Oh man, how can I put this? They're all pretty bad. I guess Green Lantern is more consistently entertaining throughout, but it's really just a pick your poison situation here. Yeah, so I guess Green Lantern would be the best of the worst. Green Lantern is a much better movie than Captain Marvel. Another Green Lantern one. God, I don't like Green Lantern, but I really don't like Captain Marvel.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Yes.
You guys tell me what you think. What's better, Green Lantern or Captain Marvel? I'm gonna leave a pinned comment in the comment section, and I want you guys just to tell me which one you think is better. Alright, so scroll through all these, and boom. I don't think the MCU should introduce X-Men and the Fantastic Four. I agree, I'm personally kind of over this whole shared universe thing. They've been doing it for 11 years, and it was pretty cool, but right now, I want to get back to solo adventures. I want the movies to start feeling different from each other. With the MCU, they all just feel the same and not unique from each other. But more likely, they're gonna bring them into the MCU. They're gonna start introducing a multiverse or something like that, and then they're all probably gonna fight Galactus. That's my prediction, and it's probably gonna be the next big build-up. Everybody fighting Galactus. Endgame is a bad, overrated movie. Very predictable, and the last 30 minutes is just fan service. Most Marvel movies are trash now, just jokes and CGI. That's it. Yeah, like I just said, I think most of the MCU movies are just very bland and ununique, especially in the last 5 years. And true, I think Endgame is pretty bad. It's very overrated. Not even close to good as Infinity War. And I actually think the fan service at the end with the big final battle was the most entertaining part. There was just too much shit wrong with that movie. Val Kilmer is a better Batman than Michael Keaton. I'm pressing next to doubt. The MCU should take a couple years off after Endgame. They're oversaturating the genre. Honestly, the genre has been oversaturated since like 2017, 2018. But thanks to some bat soup, looks like every movie is taking some time off. And that's gonna do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Now I want you to go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what is your unpopular comic book movie opinion. Thanks for watching. I'm Tex, and I'll catch you next time.
Little Wayne, what type of food do you like?
Pussy.
Actually, I'm a boy.
I'm about to bust.